What's the DJ?
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host or co-host today, East Coast Sports Investors Midday Market Report for April 25th, 2023. If you have not been watching the playoff hockey, shame on you. Sunday night, everyone that went to bed with the Oilers down 3-0, wake up and the Oilers came storming back to tie that series against the Kings. They face off tonight at 9:38. And last night, sooner or later, the Leafs are going to break through. Sooner or later. They got booed off their own ice in their home opener. They win game 2. Game 3, they come back and win in overtime. And last night, down 4-1 in the third with 10 minutes to go, come all the way back and win. And now up 3-1. Yes, I know we've seen this before, but I think it's a different Leafs team. And I've been stating this case for a while. I think the Leafs are that one team. If the locals right here behind me, the Bruins, are not going to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals or to the Cup, I thought it was the Leafs. And I've said all along, the Leafs, if they get by round 1, the world's off their shoulders. And we saw offensively what they can do. But an amazing game. And we got 3 games tonight. So without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Oh, I love this Maple Leafs talk. Is it time? Is it time for them to take the next step? We will find out. But I remember a certain team with the jersey I'm wearing right up there that came back after being down 3-1. But everything I'm seeing from this Maple Leafs team is making me believe that they're a new team. We'll find out. But it all comes down to bringing in the right guys. And Jeff, I'm telling you, at the trade deadline, they might have really brought in the right guys this time.
People are starting to say the wear and tear on the Lightning, Vasilevsky, the fact that they've been to 3 straight cups, all those added games, every game is a game amongst itself with the pressure, the 60 minutes, the overtimes, the double overtimes. Is this series over? No, it's not. But I will say this, it will get a lot tighter if the Leafs don't close this out in 5.
Yeah. It's funny because I was making jokes that Leafs in 5 was trending on Twitter before the series started. And now they actually have a chance to do it, which is crazy, especially after what happened in game 1. I mean, like I said, I'll continue to say it. I'm known to be a jokester about this Leafs team, but prove it to me and I'll give you respect. And the way they're scoring goals, the way they're getting goaltending late in games, in overtime, a little bit of depth of scoring, with Kerfoot and Achari, but getting the big boys stepping up in the big moments. Matthews with 2 goals in the third period. That's what you need from your team, And I cannot give enough credit to Ilya Samsonov for how well he's been playing. Because in game 3, the Maple Leafs did not deserve to win that game. They didn't. Does that mean that they should just not get the win? Absolutely not. Because during the Montreal Canadiens' run to the Cup, how many games do people think they didn't deserve to win? Plenty. But their MVP was Carey Price. And now that you've got a goaltender, I think he makes less than $1 million a year, Jeff. They're going to have to sign him to a new contract, but for him to play that well under the pressure he is, it's huge, right? And in game, what was it? Game 2, I believe, when things got out of hand, when Giordano fought somebody, Luke Shen fought somebody, we saw, Stamkos and Matthews getting into it. It seems like this Leafs team won't back down. The only thing I'll say, and I'm not trying to complain or make excuses, I hate using the word, but I strongly dislike that the game had to end on a power play goal. Is it fair to say that? I really wish the game could end 5-on-5, but that was a good call, the right call to make. But I'm with you. It does, and I was skeptical at first when you kept on saying it. I'm not going to lie to you. I wasn't really right there with you, but if they get over that hump, the first round, then I think that the monkey is off their back. Although I've got some friends that are saying to me, well, I have two different groups of Leaf friends. One that I call realists, and one that think that they should win the cup for the next 10 years. One guy said to me, Jeff, that he still isn't happy until a conference final appearance. And I agree with him. Even though Boston was the best team in the league by far this year, I don't know if one round is enough. If they lose to Boston in 5, let's just say, but they get over that hump and beat Tampa in 6, is that enough? If you're Kyle Dubas, if you're Sheldon Keefe, Brendan Shanahan, is that enough? And I'll ask you if you think that's enough, because you've been calling it the monkey's off their back. The Bruins are the number 1 team in the league, but is it enough just to win one round?
It's funny you say that, because the locals, before we went live, started to talk about this. And Maserati was saying the same thing that I was. Sooner or later they got to break through, and I think outside looking in, they'd be playing with house money in this regards. I think it's the perfect storm for them, because the Bruins will be their next opponent. The Bruins had the greatest season in NHL history for wins, for points. Now, if they bowed out in a 4-1 gentleman's sweep, well, then the cup is half full. If they lost in a 7th game at the Garden, 3-2 in overtime, I think they'd get a lot more respect, saying, all right, they fought hard. They beat Tampa, who was in 3 straight Stanley Cups. They just took the Bruins, the greatest team ever, which we know is a farce, to 7 games. Look what we got look forward to next year. But I think it just makes them even more dangerous going in, because all the pressure's off them, and all the pressure's now going to be on the Bruins.
Yeah, no disagreement there from me. I agree with you. In the playoffs, it's important to win games that the analytical people will tell you that you should not have won. And I'll make that really clear. There's nothing wrong with winning those games. And in fact, it's actually a really good thing, because you don't want to have those repeat performances. But here they find themselves up 3-1 back to Toronto, and back-to-back games that they were down in. So if they go ahead and win the first period this time around, what's going through the minds of Tampa Bay? Did you watch that interview with Hagel at the intermission? But between the second and third period, maybe it was just the Canadian broadcast got the interview. I'm not sure, but he pretty much said he was very cocky, not like obnoxious, but he said, like, I'm not surprised by the score line right now. This is what it should have been like last game. We're up 4-1. The chances are going in. And, if I'm a Maple Leaf player and I'm able to come back and win like that in overtime, there's nothing you can't do anymore. However, I will say this, and me and you will do shows before the next series. It's going to be harder to come back 4-1 against the Bruins, I think. Vasilevsky's having trouble right now tracking pucks from the point. They're missing Chernak on D, which is real tough for them, for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I got to give credit to Sheldon Keefe, because as much as he annoys me with how much he complains on the bench, the way he changed his lines between the second and third period was a masterclass of a coach not being afraid to mix things up. I'm someone that always says, don't rush to change things, but hell, you're down 4-1. Go ahead, mix the lines up a little bit. He did that, and they did a great job. So I'll tell you, the first period over 1.5 is 4-0 in that series. It got a little bit lucky yesterday. I see no reason why we shouldn't play that again tomorrow. That's got to be a bet that I think we all have in pocket. The over, of course, is hitting too, but I still believe we could see the first period go over and the game slow down defensively. So could be worth the wager, right? I mean, to me, the juice is only a bad thing if you lose, and the clip it's hitting right now, you're playing with house money.
I agree. I'm seeing an opening overnight number of minus 150 and a 6.5 over. Right now it's circa 154. You can grab the Lightning at plus 140 with a 6.5 minus 110 on that. If I said to you second round, and I'm just playing the game here, Bruins minus 170, Leafs plus 150. Fair number, too high, not high enough.
Well, does it make sense to say depending on how the Leafs win? Like, I think the Leafs will get more respect than that.
So you say 150, 130?
Like 150-ish, probably. Okay. Yeah, right. That's. I mean, I probably looked like such a hater last night, but I might as well continue the act, even though I was showing them a little bit of respect. But I tweeted out yesterday, as someone that runs an account that talks mainly about sports betting, are you guys all forgetting the Leafs were favored in this series? Minus 155 in some spots in Canada? Because you're acting like they just won the Stanley Cup. And I get it. Have that celebration. Canada's going to be unreal. And I have a promise with my friend that if they make the Stanley Cup Finals, I have to go back to Toronto with him. Because when Montreal won and beat Toronto in that first round, he actually drove with me to Montreal. So, I look at it, I think that it's one round. It's still one game. What's the old-fashioned saying, Jeff? The last one is the hardest one to win. And I think you and I both know this. If they don't win tomorrow, and they don't win the next day, they don't want to go to a game 7. Because I'll tell you what, Tampa will win in Tampa if it goes there. I'll put my name on that. Toronto has to close it out in game 5. As crazy as it is to sound, with a 3-1 lead, I know 3 games would be really hard for them to choke, but the way I look at it is it's if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm not even thinking about game 7. I'm thinking about getting the job done on the road. They're going to go back home and get the job done, and then game 7, who knows what's going to happen in that one. Because I'll still take Vasilevsky over Samsonov in game 7, even though he's been outplayed. Would you?
No, 100%. And where I was going to go with this is Sunday night, I'm trying to decompress, get ready for the week. And now with Mass Live, it's so dangerous. And I don't preach this. I don't tell anyone to do this, but I look anyways. And when Edmonton was down 3-0 against the Kings on Sunday night, you could have got Edmonton plus 420 to win the game on the live money line. And again, last night, the same thing with Tampa. It was even higher than that with the Leafs. And 3-0, obviously you need the next goal. 3-1, you're down 2, anything can happen. And as the third period was progressing, it didn't look like it was going to get there. And then they interviewed Austin Matthews after the game. And, how was the locker room going into the third? We were still upbeat. We knew we needed to get that next goal. And just so happens Austin Matthews gets it to 4-2. And once you get that goal, now you start to believe, and especially with the firepower that Edmonton has, especially with the firepower that the Leafs have, are you noticing yourself taking a peek or even going in to these 2-3 goal deficits and taking a swing, or at least looking at them saying, well, it can happen?
Absolutely. We've seen so many examples of that, and it's just round 1. That's what's crazy. It's just round 1. I will say this. The the team that has scored first in the Devils series, and of course the team on the road, has won every single game. But in some instances, it has not mattered. In a lot of these series, which team has scored first. It almost seems like Jeff scoring first has given a false sense of security to some of these clubs, which is not a good thing, you know. And take a look at that LA Kings series. 3-0 turns to 3-3, turns to 4-3, turns to 5-4 in overtime. And for the record, I did fall asleep, and I've been having the best sleeps of my life these days. But part of me is upset because I'm missing some great hockey. I'm waking up motivated. I'm at the desk in my office earlier working than I would be usually, but I'm missing this great game. So I'm definitely willing to sprinkle, but I'll be honest, I haven't been going kind of all the way with it. I've been doing a lot more of the +1.5, +2.5 type of thing in game, or even with a team like the Oilers. Most apps and websites and betting opportunities, places will give you the opportunity to bet in-game team totals, which I like doing those because I get it. You're not getting that shiny plus price, but you're pretty much just saying, I don't know if they're going to win, but they're going to get me 3 goals. And I think that's kind of a good way to go. Yesterday, look at this. I mean, I thought this was crazy. I was talking to someone that had a bet on the Devils team total under 2.5. Until that empty net goal happened in the third period, he almost cashed it. He liked the Rangers just like I did, but said, nah, I'll just take the Devils team total under. So it's just the same way that you tell me with the spaghetti strainer. There's so many different ways to approach these games, but I like betting the +1.5s when teams go down early like that. But Oilers got to get off to a good start tonight, Jeff. I think the -0.5 goal tonight could be a good option.
Plus the 130. We had that last week, and that is definitely on the desk right now. The other thing I wanted to ask you, and it's kind of crazy, but they're coming in, and the mindset is each team scores one, and then you get the empty netter or whatever. Or in the playoffs, especially, they'll pull the goalie with 4 or 5 minutes left. And that's if you're looking at the third period, the end game, like last night, the Tampa was up 4-1 going to the third. The under/over was 7.5. They were telling you that there was a good possibility there were going to be 3 or more goals scored, which obviously overtime that happened. But once they tied it, you got it. So are you looking at that third period and the over in the third period?
That's one of my favorite plays to make in the postseason, but specifically in elimination games. So you only get it for so many opportunities and so many chances. But I'll go as far as to say that's where I'll really shove the chips in. If you want to get greedy, you can take the 2.5 at plus money. But there was a time during the bubble and when COVID was going on where we saw all kinds of, let's say it's 2-2 going into the third period. A team scores, makes it 3-2, empty net goal, boom, over 1.5, 4-2 final. And you were getting -160, 170, but if it was hitting, or sometimes you'd get, the opposite where it would be a team is 3-2, the other team scores, they score again, empty netter. Or as you saw the other night with the Panthers game, 2 empty net goals, because what the hell? If they lose the game, they're going to be eliminated anyway. So that kind of carries me into today's New York Islanders and Carolina Hurricanes game here, Jeff. I like the over 5.5 plus 120. I've had some people looking at me like I have 10 heads when I say this. I pretty much feel like I'm getting an over 4.5 at plus 120. I have some books that ask me, will there be an empty net goal at a plus price? I say yes. And with me already thinking that pre-flop makes me think, okay, give me over 4.5 goals, 5-on-5 hockey, or without an empty net. And I think they can get that. The big reason why I like this so much is because I think the Islanders are going to realize, geez, the style of hockey we're playing isn't working. We can't win 2-1 games against this team. Carolina is the better of defensive teams. I've been saying this for a couple weeks now. Carolina is pretty much an exact replica of New York, just better. So they're going to have to open the ice up, stop dumping and chasing, carry the puck through the ice, get Bo Horvat going, get Barzell going early. Wouldn't shock me to see 5-3 final Carolina, something like that. I think a lot of people are going to load up on the under in this game. I'm quite the opposite here. I think we see some games that like tonight that have goals. Same thing tomorrow, Panthers, Bruins. I think if the Panthers have a chance, they've got to score 3 or 4 goals here. The Bruins can match it. I know Allmark, getting him in an elimination game, people could say he will have a good performance, but I'm a huge fan of betting overs in elimination games. 10 years ago, you'd see 2-1 games in elimination games. Not anymore. Times have changed. So that's my favorite play, and I'm giving it out here on the show. Over 5.5 plus 120 tonight. Carolina, New York.
And I'm going to piggyback off of that. And I assume the assumption the whole world is anyone that had the Rangers game 3, that had the Rangers in game 4, is most definitely having them in game 5. I didn't know Martin Brodeur was playing net game 3 and 4 for the Devils. I didn't know they're going back to the what was the trap. I mean, it was the most pathetic performance I have seen with a team like the Rangers, talking about duck boats and parades, going into New Jersey, winning the first 2, 5-1, 5-1, and that series was over. They laid not 1 but 2 eggs. I mean, it was disgusting.
And I don't know what to say because, what anybody going to blame the travel? There's no travel there, right? I mean, there's simply no excuse, Jeff. I could say so many things, but the goalie change, of course, but I guess the biggest hockey cliche I can say, and I got to credit Dave Koch, and I saw him tweeting about this, was that they forced the Rangers to play East-West and not North-South hockey. For anybody that doesn't know what that means, pretty much they slowed them down. They did not let them easily handle the puck into their offensive zone. And that was the biggest difference to me. But, Jeff, if you look at that first goal that Jack Hughes scored, you're going to tell me he's scoring that again tomorrow? Creeps up on the penalty kill, I believe it might have been, or maybe it wasn't penalty kill, but he got in all alone behind the defenseman. Those are goals that don't happen until the Devils score a crappy goal. I know it sounds weird, but that's why I'm impressed with the Leafs right now. They're scoring nice goals and crappy goals. Until they score goals that aren't just nice goals, I'm not buying it. And I think that, look, every team so far that's on the road has won. So if it goes 7, go Blue Shirts. That's the way I look at it. So, Patrick Kane, Tarasenko shut down in game 4. Game 5 should be a real good one.
You talked about the Islanders, Carolina, Minnesota, Dallas, and it was funny because I looked at a number Friday. We talked Friday behind the desk actually on Friday, and the Stars minus 117 in Minnesota. I'm like, what the hell? That line can only go one way. Well, Wild box the wire. Stars said not so fast. They stuck out like a sore thumb. We have Wild in the series. I think this is going to be another 7-game series. Stars minus 140, now 134 at Circa with a 5.5 juice under, minus 25 cents. Thoughts on that game tonight?
Jeff, to be completely honest with you, this is the series I kind of had the least read on. Haven't really been in action too much. I would recommend playing some props potentially, looking at Rupe Hintz on his shots on goal, looking at some guys in the depth chart deep down there for Minnesota. If I'm playing this game, I've been saying it on everything I've been doing all day, under 1.5 first period would be my play, because I do not think that you like Minnesota in the series, right? You have them.
We have them in the series. Yes, we took the plus 125, I think it was, or something like that. And then the Pavs was a Pavelski injury.
Yeah.
might have helped us early.
Mhm.
I think it's two teams that match up dead even to themselves. I think they're two real good teams. A lot of second half season steam came on Dallas, and they're deserving. I love everything about Dallas. And I just thought, almost like the Oilers, if the Oilers could have taken anyone but one team, it was probably the Kings they didn't want to face. It wasn't a
Yeah.
good matchup for them. And I think for Minnesota and Dallas, I think they're two identical teams.
I think that Minnesota is a better defensive team than Dallas, but Dallas is a better offensive team. Would you agree with that? I think
I
they have more
agree.
options. So
Yes.
that's why I kind of like the under 1.5 first period. I don't know if that defensive mindset will be able to last a full game. We saw the under just squeak under last game, 3-2 final score, right? So looking at this one, I think that we could see a full-on goaltender display. The middle of the ice completely clogged up. The only thing that worries me about these 1.5 is obviously 2 goals isn't a lot to get, is power plays. If they stay out of the box, I think that's where I would look. I'd also look towards Minnesota in the first period, or in the game. I like Minnesota tonight. I like a zigzag in this series. I think this series goes 7. Really, I think this is a big zigzag effect. But Minnesota has to shut down the top guys: Robertson, Hintz, Jamie Benn doing pretty well. But I think defense is the strategy for Minnesota to score. Dean Evison, he knows it as well. I don't think they want to trade chances. They don't want to go punch for punch with this Dallas team. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Don't get me wrong, Ottinger is a great goalie, but I think that as far as the defensive core, the Minnesota Wild stay at home more. Even looking at the defensive core look at Heiskanen. Heiskanen's one of the leaders of points in the series, and he's a defenseman. So I just think that Minnesota is a little bit better defensively. You know what? Now that I'm saying this, kind of talking myself into a team total under for Dallas. What's the play on that? Do you have anything open? Because
Yeah,
I've been
I
saying the first period the whole day, but what can we get for a Dallas team under?
total for the game. You
Yeah.
can get that under 2.5 minus about 150.
Oh, geez.
Plus 150. No, plus
Plus
150. Right now
Right.
on wage excuse me. Yeah, I screwed that one up. On Wager Talk right now, Minnesota team total 2.5 juiced under minus 125. Dallas team total over 173. So you can get the Dallas team total under 2.5 at about plus 150.
That might be a decent look. I think that's Minnesota. They've got to play well defensively tonight. I'm making it very clear. I think if this game goes over, Dallas wins it. If it goes under, I think Mini wins it.
Well, they got this penciled in right now at 3-2 Dallas. That's what the numbers tell me. So, last game, good, exactly where I was on that one. Earlier in this series, we had the plus 130 on Edmonton minus the hook, first period. Full game right now. Edmonton opens 235 with a 6.5. Right now it's circa 215. You can grab the Kings at plus 195, 6.5 over minus 15 cents. I too like the Edmonton Oilers minus the hook first period plus the 130. Anything else you like in this game?
I like Evan Bouchard to get a point at minus 135. He has a point in 7 straight games. He has a point in every game this series. He had 3 points last game. And as Dave Sharapan and so many people will tell us that have worked behind the counter will tell us, even in the playoffs, the odds makers aren't adjusting. They're not making moves in the NHL. They're worried about NBA, worried about MLB. Hell, the NFL draft's getting more movement than this NHL play is. Evan Bouchard over 0.5 points, minus 135. I also want to let everybody know about the power play props. I'm not sure how much I've mentioned on the show, but you can take a guy like Draisaitl, who's going to be minus 240 to get a point, and you get him down to minus 135, 140 to get a power play point. He has won in 3 of 4 games in this series. We both know how important the power play has been for both teams. Adrian Kempe, same thing for him. To get a point versus to get a power play point is an extreme difference. And it's a massive difference, and I think that that's really something worth looking at in a game that actually, I talked about this all the time actually on your show leading up to the playoffs that I was going to mention this. And I think that it's something that people have to have their eyes on, because if you look at a team that's constantly, executing on the power play, but having trouble scoring 5-on-5, you're getting these superstar players like McDavid and Draisaitl at a discount code just for them to get a power play goal when it's 5-on-4, where they execute the most. But I like the -0.5, like yourself, in the first period. I like the over 1.5 in the first period. And I'm tempted by looking at the team total under for the Kings, but it's hard to really predict anything low scoring in this series. Jack Campbell might be the goaltender. Who knows which Jack we're going to get? Jack Campbell is like a box of chocolates, man. You don't know which one you're going to get, but he could be a good one tonight. We'll see what happens.
Couple seconds left. I know you're swamped here. I assume we might get back on Thursday. So quick talk about Wednesday. Bruins, Panthers. Bruins open 235, now 225. Get the Panthers at 203 with a 6 over -20 cents. Seattle and Colorado 2-2. I did like Seattle last night. I watched the first period and a half, 2 periods. They were dominating most of that game. Actually, shame on me. I'm probably got a brain fart here. So let me just look at something here quickly. Scores NHL last night.
It is crazy though that I don't think Allmark's getting enough credit, and I always for some reason seem to take the side of goaltenders, even though I was never a goalie in any sport in my life. But for Allmark to face 44 shots and allow 2 goals, nobody's giving him credit because the Bruins scored 6 goals. But he's standing on his head.
He was a question mark. He looks like he's hurt. And even the coach came out in that first period 0-0 where he was on the right side and he dives over to the left. That would have been 1-0 Florida. Changes the whole tone. You and I tweeted it. You commented the first goal the Bruins scored. That was not a goal the night before. The puck, the ref couldn't see the puck. They blow the whistle. That's how the game goes. They allowed, I think it was Marchand, to jab at it, and they scored the first goal. The floodgates open. And my shock of all shocks, my spreadsheet said Lions were starting. We had in our action parlay, obviously, the Panthers. I will tell you this, and I'm not a Monday morning quarterback. I've never been, Andrew. If I knew Bob was in net, I would not have been on the Panthers.
Fair enough. That's why I'm still waiting. Let me refresh the one I use the most. Wow. Here we go. It's out. Stuart Skinner will start Game 5 for the Edmonton Oilers. So there we go. Because a lot of people said the obvious decision to them was to go to Campbell. And here they are going back to Stuart Skinner. There might be a tight leash on him. I think that some of those goals might have been weak. We can say about bad defense for the Oilers, but you give up 3 goals in the first period. Can't all 3 of them be nice goals. So I'm with you. I agree. And I've been saying this for years. Just like we can list pitchers, I wish you could list goaltenders. And if you could have done that, you would have gotten your money back.
It's a good friend of ours, Scott. As soon as I saw Bob, and the funny thing is last man on, first man, however you want to say it in hockey terms, it was Lions. And so Bob was coming onto the ice, and people from Florida were scratching their heads like, oh, where's Lions? And sure enough, he goes and he starts, skating around. And I'm like, I'm done. I said, we're done. He goes, what do you mean? I was like, I had Lions starting. He goes, well, no, Bob's in net. I was like, and he's a diehard Bruin fan. He goes, does that mean the Bruins are going to win? I was like, yeah, it does. Andrew,
makes a big difference. Makes a big difference.
the crawl has been going the whole time. Everyone here knows they can follow you at McInnis Picks. Get all your work at Wager Talk at Sports Mayflower. They can jump over to YouTube, Mayflower Sports, subscribe. It's free. What I like to do is we always do here and end. Tell them what they can get from you and where to get it.
Yeah, all my picks, of course, found over at Wager Talk. Tonight I have total play going, some MLB action going out later. Full card will be finalized probably in the next hour and a half. But looking forward to the next couple weeks, and it's a great time. We have a deal going right now for a 90-day pass. We always talk about the 7-day, 30-day, 1 year. 90 days gets you the rest of the NHL playoffs, gets you some MLB action, and that will creep into CFL season as well, which is the bread and butter. You know, we're not going crazy every year with profits, but we're in the green pretty much every season in that sport. Last year got off to a tough start, but we battled and made some profit. It's a long season, as you know, Jeff, in the CFL. So the 90-day pass is what I will be kind of telling people about today. And you can go over to Wager Talk, no coupon code necessary. Click that 90-day and join me. And of course, as you know, follow me on Twitter at McInnis Picks, and definitely love to chop it up.
All right. Everyone here watching, Connor, Russell, and the usual cast of characters, we thank you so much for the follow. Retweet us once in a while or like us or whatever they do. It's like tipping the dealer at the Bellagio, and you don't have to leave your couch. In about 15 minutes, myself and Ron will be breaking down the NFL draft. This morning, you wake up and the talks of Will Levis being the number one pick, and that has kind of come back down to earth. At 6:45, myself and Scott will be talking some MLB baseball. So full selection of shows and sports coming. Myself and Andrew will be back later this week. We'll hash that out in a second. So everyone, go grab a cold one, refresh, and see you back in a few minutes.